All right, today we're diving into this massive, kind of hidden hurdle that trips up so many growing businesses. And it's not what you think. It's not about sales or marketing. Nope. It's all about the tools they use to actually run this show. You see, some new research has uncovered this critical gap, and we are going to break it all down. So, hey, if you're running a business, let me ask you something. Does this feel familiar? You've totally outgrown your starter software, right? The simple stuff you used on day one. But then you look for that next step up, and it seems like all the options are built for these corporate giants with, bottomless budgets. You're just stuck in a software no man's land. Okay, so let's get into this by really mapping out the two completely different software universes that businesses have to choose from. Seriously, it's like they're two different worlds. So over on the left, you've got what's called an accounting information system, or an AIS. This is your essential starter kit. It handles the basics, money in, money out. But on the right, well, that's the Enterprise Resource Planning System, or ERP. And this thing isn't just a tool, it's a full-on command center that pulls every single part of the business together into one system. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. A government policy change in the United Arab Emirates, of all places, accidentally shone this massive spotlight on the divide between those two worlds, and it revealed a huge, huge problem in the software market. See, before 2018, most small and medium businesses in the UAE were doing just fine with their basic accounting software. But then, bam, the government introduced a value-added tax. And all of a sudden, that simple software just couldn't handle the new complex reporting rules. So companies had to scramble and find a better solution, and they had to do it fast. And what did all these growing businesses find? It wasn't just a simple step up. Oh no, it was this giant, intimidating, and, you guessed it, incredibly expensive chasm that they were somehow expected to cross. And look, we are not talking about a small price jump here. The research found that the cost to go from a basic AIS to a full ERP system is exponentially higher. It's not a step, it's a wall. A massive financial wall that can just stop a growing business dead in its tracks. The researchers actually gave this problem a name. They call it the market gap. And it's basically this big, underserved group of small and medium enterprises, SMEs, that are just too big for the small-time tools, but way too small for the giant enterprise-level ones. They're totally ready to grow, but the tools they need are just out of reach. And what happens when you have a gap like that? Well, you end up with two monopolies at the absolute extremes of the market. On one end, you've got a program called Tally, which just dominates the tiny business space. And on the other, you have SAP, the go-to for massive corporations. There's almost nothing out there that's built for those crucial businesses stuck in the middle. So, okay, a gap in the software market, why should we really care? Well, because this isn't just about code and computers. This is about the very engine that drives the entire economy. To really get the scale of this, just look at these numbers from Dubai. An incredible 95% of all businesses there are classified as small and medium enterprises. Let that sink in for a second. 95%. And these aren't just little side hustles. They are the bedrock of employment. We're talking 43% of the entire workforce. The research paper calls them the anchors of the economy. And that's exactly what they are. And when your anchor gets stuck, the whole ship is in trouble. So the most important thing to understand is what these businesses are missing out on. The study uses this perfect analogy, comparing an ERP system to the cockpit of an airplane. It gives the manager, the pilot, right, a complete real-time view of everything that's happening across the entire company. And without that cockpit, without that integrated dashboard showing you all the data from every department, well, you're pretty much flying blind. There's just no way you can make those smart, strategic decisions you need to make to steer the company and actually grow. Okay, so how do we fix this whole mess? The good news is the researchers didn't just point out the problem, they laid out a really clear two-part strategy to finally bridge this software chasm. It's kind of like a classic pincer movement. First, you need the big ERP companies like SAP to meet the market in the middle. They need to create these scaled-down, more affordable light versions. And at the exact same time, the basic AIS companies like Tally need to build up. They should be offering more advanced, integrated features for their own customers who are ready to expand. At the end of the day, this is about way more than just filling a spot in the market. It's about democratizing the tools for success. It's about leveling the playing field for the next generation of really great companies. The research also points out this really crucial tech divide. A lot of those basic AI's tools are kind of stuck in the past. They're offline, and all your data is trapped on a single computer somewhere. Modern ERPs, though, they live in the cloud, giving you the flexibility, the remote access, and the real-time data that is just absolutely essential to run a business today. So what's the big takeaway here? This software gap isn't just some small inconvenience. It's a real threat to economic growth because it's holding back the SMEs, the backbone of the economy. The solution is to create a healthy, thriving middle market for software, which is just critical if we want to see the innovation and job creation that we all depend on. And that really leaves us with one last massive question. In an age where we have this unbelievable technology all around us, how do we make sure the absolute best tools for growth get into the hands of everyone with a great idea, and not just the corporate giants who can already afford them?